I am a man of honor, integrity, and promise. I pursue all righteousness. I love my family. I will not put my family in harm's way. There is nothing that will keep me from doing the right thing. I am an ambassador of hope and a man of discipline. I am a man worth following. I am a TYRO.
Welcome to TYRO TV. I'm Ron Cathy.
And I'm Cathy TYRO. And if you don't know who we are, Ron and I did 15 years in the prison system. Ron did 15 years on the inside, and my children and I did the 15 years on the outside.
And keeping it real, we were incarcerated before we became physically incarcerated. We just didn't know it. 5 years, we were married 5 years prior to imprisonment.
5 long dysfunctional years.
Dysfunctional years. But it was in prison that we began to really become conscious and to awaken into something greater than ourselves.
So as we came out the other side of the prison experience, our marriage was stronger, healthier, and our family was healthier and stronger than ever before. And so now we get to go back and we want to share with you the things that we learned that help us become strong so that you can develop strong, healthy relationships as well.
So out of our experience, we were able to develop a curriculum called TYRO. And the TYRO is a Latin word which means apprentice, novice, someone learning something new, a warrior, founding father. And so we're encouraging you guys to come into a place, and not only guys, but women and families, to come into a place of where they can own their story and they can take what looks horrific, right? To take that mess and turn it into a message, where you can now become the messenger to bring hope and transparency
and healing
in every situation, not only of your life, but all the lives around you.
So we're in the midst of a series on building a healthy relationship inside of prison, meaning from inside prison to bridge outside to your significant other or your spouse. And so we've talked about the culture of incarceration, how that can infect or affect a healthy relationship. We also talked about building trust and what it takes to rebuild that and really create trust in your relationship and how foundational that is.
And so the next thing we want to talk about is phone calls. Now this is a touchy and kind of a difficult subject to talk about. You got 15 minutes, sometimes even less than that. How do you maintain or build a healthy relationship in a 15-minute conversation? Now, some of us have been known to be on the phone for an hour, right? That's 4 times you're calling home a collect call. So are you becoming a burden or a liability?
And calling home a collect call 4 times because you're arguing and you just want to get that last point in. You really want to make sure that she understands what it is you're talking about.
Because I want to have the last word again. So if she hangs up on me, I'm calling back and she better pick it up and accept that collect call.
Oh, gosh, that
my
was a nightmare.
So that's what we want to talk about. We want to share with you really tidbits and nuggets on how to embrace that experience of the phone calls and how to make it, make that investment.
How to leverage those minutes.
Leverage.
Yeah, how to leverage those minutes in order to create strong, healthy, thriving, vibrant relationships. And so we're going to ask you to stay tuned, and when we come back, we're going to share a lot more.
TYRO Dads will help you to see who you really are on the inside by coming to terms with your past, present, and future. You will begin to move forward by using your time on the inside to transform yourself. We know you are not the only one serving time. Your family is too. Overcoming the issues that existed prior to and during incarceration are often more than many families can survive. TYRO Dads has a unique method of reaching and healing families based on Ron and Cathy TYRO's own personal experience with incarceration. TYRO Dads works exclusively with incarcerated fathers who have minor children. The program lasts for 10 weeks and focuses on intensive character development. You'll be taught to take responsibility for your actions, to own it. You will be prepared to overcome the obstacles of your incarceration and transition back into your home and community, both successfully and permanently. Upon successful completion of this program, you will earn the title of TYRO, which means a warrior, someone learning something new. You'll be one of the honored, a man worth following.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron.
And I'm Cathy. And today we're talking about how to leverage phone calls in order to make your relationship stronger and healthier instead of create conflict and turmoil
and drama.
On the phone. And drama, that's right.
You know, drama on the phone, it's really a norm in prison.
I think it's a norm out in society these days, too.
Yeah, but even in prison, it's more, gosh, how do I describe it? When a man is not getting his way and there's nothing he can do about it, it's like it's amplified.
Yeah.
Because now not only are you carrying that, I'm not getting my way, that frustration, the anger, and all the things that go with that.
Temper tantrum.
Yeah, temper tantrums. You carry that with you back into your cube, back into the day room, and then what do? You start to share your frustrations with the men around you.
And that always works well for resolving conflict.
Well, at least in my own mind it did. We talk about how do you leverage a phone call, because when I called home, it was always about me. Yeah, I'm asking you.
At first, right?
At first it was always about, I had an agenda, I had a mission, and at the end of the phone call, you were going to send me money, you were going to talk to the lawyer, you were going to do everything I asked you to do, and then some.
Yeah, I was going to clear my calendar, and I was going to dig deep in my pocketbook, and it was all about taking care of Ron. And we quickly found that didn't work very well.
It didn't work at all.
It didn't work at all. It was not building our relationship. What it was doing, it was creating a lot of resentment on my part. Because here I'm paying for a phone call, and I'm waiting and waiting all day to talk to him because I need to be encouraged. I need to hear something from him that's going to help me make it through the next day.
I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know how to encourage her because I was so stuck on my needs, and I needed encouragement, and it was all about me, and I'm the one who's in prison, not you.
So as we have our conversation, if we ended the conversation and the time was up and he couldn't call back and it was on a bad note, if you will, on something that was still conflict.
Sour note.
Right. So then the next day, I would get busy back to, whatever regular life was and not even thinking about how we left that phone call. But the next night, Ron would call back and he would want to pick up right where we left off.
But I carried it. And not only did I carry it for that evening, but if I gone a week without talking to Cathy, I'd still carry it the entire week. Despite anything else that's happening inside the penitentiary, in my own world, I was reliving over and over and over again the last conversation we had, especially if it didn't go my way, right? And then I would seek advice in all the wrong places.
That's right. Well, wait. Okay, here's a free tip. If you know somebody in prison that's not in a current relationship, has not been able to maintain healthy relationships, they are not the person to ask how to manage conflict.
But it was my bunkmate or my roommate that the guy was doing time with in a cell, so I had nobody else to bounce off my imagination, right? So Cathy and I would get in an argument, and they'd be heated. They'd be pretty intense at times when we were navigating and trying to learn our role in our relationship and who we are, because this is the time, 15 minutes, you already prepared your whole conversation. I not only had a conversation in my mind, I had her response programmed in my mind, how she was going to respond to my conversation, right? And it never went that way.
So all of that was not about building a connection together. It was about my agenda, and it was about his agenda. And it wasn't about how can we really build our relationship. And so as we went through that first, I want to say few years, and really, really struggling with phone calls. It's like sometimes they were great phone calls, and sometimes they were frustrating phone calls. Sometimes one phone call led to another, led to another, led to another, so that we could resolve conflict or bring resolution to something. And then
it wasn't even resolving.
Right.
There were a lot of compromising going on in our relationship. And not that compromise is bad, but it doesn't bring total healing or resolution to whatever issue or situation you're facing together through a phone call.
And so I always knew when I would pick up the phone, I knew that he had gotten advice from somebody inside when he'd say, "Now listen, woman, I've been thinking about this." And I was like,
but those were terms of endearment.
Right, of course, of course. So as we navigated through that, Ron actually began to do things differently. Instead of calling up and telling me all of the things on his agenda, he began to call and ask me how my life was. Like, "Hey, Cathy, tell me," because initially for probably 2 years, it was all about what was happening in there, what he needed from me, what he needed me to do, and who he needed me to contact.
Then I would ask, "How you doing?"
Right, at the very end, "Oh, wait, quick, babe, I know we got 30 seconds left. How you doing? How's it going out there?" And so then when that switched, again, as in growth and becoming a man of honor and becoming that husband, which is a journey that he needed to be, he began starting out the conversation, "Hey, how are things going with you? How was your day? How are the boys?"
Remembering when I first went in prison, I'm 25 years old, So yes, I'm a grown man, but I have little boy issues, right? I have insecurity issues. I'm not comfortable in my own skin. I'm not comfortable with whatever. And so I'm expressing that like a child, right? I'm expressing it in ways that are not healthy, that are actually demeaning, that are actually tearing down what we're trying to build. And I'm the issue. I'm the poison.
Not just demeaning to me, but demeaning to him. I mean, it wasn't building mutual respect. It wasn't building mutual admiration or affection. It was like this
Disdain.
Ew, yeah, disdain. That's
Disdain.
right. It was building disdain. Like, ooh, what is that?
And then the outcome of that behavior led up to the point of where Cathy dreaded the phone call. And she dreaded me calling. Now, I'm going to call regardless, because in my own mind, everything's perfect. Right? So I'm calling regardless. And then the reality is, Cathy is now dreading that phone call at night. And so we ran out of things to talk about. You know, we would now in a place of dormant in our relationship to where I would call her up at night and...
Oh, everything's fine.
Yeah, and it would be really small talk. There was no even... There was no depth in our conversation, and it became, you know, it was sad. If I'm looking back at it, we became really caught up in something that we didn't intend for.
It became just routine. Hey, you know, how's it going? Fine. Going here, going fine. So we want to share with you like how we transitioned out of that rut and how we really learned to leverage phone calls and to build healthy relationship. So we talked about the issues and the problems with phone. Now when we come back, we're going to talk to you about how to resolve those and create amazing moments during your phone calls. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Playing catch, basketball, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. These are all normal things on the outside, but many times are missed in a visitation setting. TYRO Dads brings the same fun experience to the inside through Family Days. As a TYRO Dad, you have the opportunity to participate in this fantastic event. Family Day is designed to allow fathers and families to engage with each other through activities designed to stimulate communication, learning, and play. Family Days will not only be a highlight for you, but for your children as well. The Ridge Project has strategically developed Family Day as an opportunity to help you connect with your child throughout your separation and help both of you develop skills to continue building your relationship when you return home.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron.
And I'm Cathy.
And today we're talking about how to build and maintain a healthy relationship via phone calls. How do you do that?
Yeah, and that's a really tough one because you have a limited number of phone calls or time on the phone, and you have to call collect. And so that means that it really takes both of you coming into agreement on how are we going to leverage this time and this investment of our time, our energy, and our dollars. And it seems like a really small thing out here in this world, which we will call the real world, because with cell phones you get unlimited text, unlimited minutes, and so people just talk to be talking. But it doesn't work that way when someone's incarcerated. We have very limited amounts of time to hear each other's voice, and so we really, really have to be intentional about leveraging that time together.
Not only intentional, sweetheart, but we have to come to a place of great appreciation for this 15-minute moment that we have to be intimate with one another on a phone and to be conscious that I'm not going to hurt you on this phone call, that I want it to end with such a great experience, with great hopes of the next time you talk to me, that I'm bringing you joy. I'm not bringing you clouds of rain or thunder. You know.
And the thing is, you know, the small things, a bunch of small things make up the large thing, right? So it's the moments in life that make the very fabric of our lives. The phone calls and the experience that your significant other or partner is having with you on those phone calls is creating either an anticipation for your arrival back into their life, or it's feeding the fear of you returning back home. And so it's not like, you know, you show up at home and then you deal with all of that. Your journey in prison and the expectation,
And the expectation, along with the transformation that's taking place, your significant other, your wife or the mother of your children, they're listening, and they're listening intently for change. to change the way you respond to what they're saying, change in the way you react to what's being said, and then really what it is you're investing in. How are you investing in their life 15 minutes in a phone call? That's, that you know, and then if you're really conscious of it, you become really good at listening.
And as you practice listening for understanding, you practice talking to connect, it becomes like a date, like a 15-minute date.
Yep.
And so it builds this anticipation of a positive encounter. It's like, wow, instead of dreading that phone call, I move to, you know, I got to get home. I don't care where I am or what I'm doing. I do not want to miss Ron's call. And if we were somewhere else and he could call somewhere, I'd say, here's the number where I'm going to be. And whatever else was happening, I'd leave the conference, I'd leave the convention, and I would go find a quiet spot because the most important moment was that moment that I was going to accept and hear his voice.
And I appreciate hearing that because I missed it. You know, Cathy would do everything in her means to get to a place where she knew I was calling at a certain time. She would be there. But because my world in prison wasn't, I didn't have to navigate through hills and mountains and storms like Cathy had to get to that moment in her life where she could be at a place where she could be quiet and we could talk. But I didn't come to that place right away. She came to that place actually before I did. And to really come to understand that when Cathy picks up the phone, it's about, what Cathy said earlier, connecting, not about me, what's in it for me, but really how do I take this conversation that I'm going to be purposeful about, I'm going to be her CEO, her chief encouraging officer, right? And I'm going to listen and I want to invest in her to help her get through another day or another week or even another month because of the world that was hitting her so hard with, you should leave him, you know, he's not...
Your family is disposable. You don't matter. You're not that important. You're less than because you're part of a family that's experiencing incarceration. And so that encouragement was my lifeline. And so we went through a period where we decided, you know what, budget-wise, that we should probably have less phone calls, and I know you all know what I'm talking about. The phone calls are so expensive, and I'm so glad to hear that changes are coming. So as those phone calls became more expensive, I would tell Ron, well, my phone bill was this much. He'd say, well, okay, I'm not going to call for 2 weeks. Or I'm not going to call for a month.
I mean, literally, I would tell Cathy, you know what, let me just focus on letters, and I won't call you for the next 30 days, so you can bring the debt down, or you can pay off your bill.
A week later, you'd get a letter from me that said,
please call.
Please,
and actually what
call.
Cathy said was also, is when I suggested that, she turned it back around and said, why is it always about you? Why do you think you're always calling that for your sake? We need to hear your voice too.
Right, right. Because at that point, now he was an inspiration instead of that drain. And so as we came together and we decided, you know what, we need to make an investment in us. And we looked at the investment in our future and we thought, you know, I could save for a down payment on a house, but that house would be an empty place. It would just be a house and never a home if I couldn't build my family strong. And so we decided to work for money and build our family strong so that when Ron did come home, we would have a home wherever that was and not just be cohabitating in a house.
And this was a huge sacrifice that Cathy had to make, her with our boys. And we're talking about a sacrifice of she didn't put her life on hold, guys.
Right.
She did not, you know, but she sacrificed other things that the money could buy.
And I think the important thing is you can't put your life on hold. You can't ask your partner to do that. What you do is you ensure that you have a place, an active role in their life right now. And so you're living together, you're experiencing life together, even though you're apart. And we're going to talk more about that and the impact that that's going to have on your children as we come back. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Cheers.
Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron.
And I'm Cathy.
And today we're talking about how to leverage phone calls, how it can impact your relationship, whether it be negative or positive. And really that outcome, it's up to you, Dad.
And so this is part of our series on building healthy relationships while you're still incarcerated. So we talked about culture, we talked about trust, and now today we're talking about phone calls. And then we'll finish up our series with 2 more, and that's letter or email writing and visits.
You know, one of the experiences that I remember having when we were conversing on the phone, you know, we only have 15 minutes, and there's competing rights going on here.
Right.
It's you, Blake, and Brandon. And we got 15 minutes, and I can hear on the background Blake saying, give me the phone, let me talk to Dad. And Brandon saying, no, it's my turn. You got to talk to him last time. And then you're saying, nope, Dad and I, we have a very important discussion to talk about things right now, so you guys are going to have to wait, or you would figure out how to fix that.
Right, yeah, and that is a really, really difficult thing, and I know you know what we're talking about. So dividing your time up and thinking about the needs of your family instead of just thinking about your own needs. Because when Ron initially, going back to when he first went to prison, when he would call, because it was all about him, he would say hi to Blake and Brandon, but he would be like, let me talk to your mom, let me talk to your mom, because he needed to tell me, hey, I need to get some transcripts, or I need you to call the lawyer, and I needed money, and I needed to talk to my mom about this and that. And so because of his very selfish focus, it really began to put a wedge between him and the boys because they were feeling discarded.
Well, not only discarded, but yeah, I mean, I would literally call and I'd be talking to Blake, but I wasn't intentional on listening. You know, it was all about me at the beginning of my journey through incarceration until I came to a point of where I had to tell myself, listen, stop thinking about yourself. Listen to what Blake has to say, because what he has to say is important, just as important as what you have to say.
So we went from they wanted to talk to Dad, and then when Dad was being selfish and they didn't want to talk on the phone anymore, to when Dad would call, them clamoring, I want to talk to Dad, I want to talk to Dad, I want to tell Dad about this, I want to tell Dad about that. Because they wanted to share their lives with him because they knew that he was really listening and that he was listening for understanding and showing excitement and showing a connectedness while they were on the phone.
You could see the shift, and I remember the shift when I became an asset to this family. I was no longer a liability. You know, here I am. I found myself in prison. You're a liability. I was a liability, and I was destroying the core makeup of our family. And so I was taken out of the picture to save the family. And that's a hard truth for me even to say right now. But to save our family, I had to be removed from it. And so guys, if you can understand why you have been removed from your family into a place of learning, a place of really stopping and to hear the way you think, to hear the way you communicate with your loved ones. I mean, this is the mother of your children. This is the woman that you said you loved, and yet we treat them, or we treat our wives in the beginning of this journey, we were treating them like they were like a car. Something that a possession that you could just discard and get off the shelf when you wanted it, put it back on the shelf, and look where it's got us. Look where you're at now because of that way of thinking.
So as Ron began to do things different on phone calls with me, Blake and Brandon were watching. They were watching how as I hung up the phone, instead of feeling frustrated, instead of saying, come on guys, let's go do this, and they didn't hear me arguing on the phone with Dad, but instead they heard me laughing with him. They heard me telling him more and more things about them and what they were doing, and they watched me get off the phone excited and missing him. Then that's when they wanted a deeper connection with Dad too. So building a healthy relationship between you and the mother of your children or your spouse really does translate into building healthier relationships with your children.
Because they can see that this is a place of safety, this is a place of trust, and they know that even as your lady's name is safe in your mouth, the children will know their names are safe in your mouth, and you're not gonna hurt them, you're gonna help them.
So we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back, and we're going to give you 3 tips, 3 action items, things that you can do right now to help your phone calls become those connecting points instead of the point of disconnection. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Completion of TYRO Dads is just the beginning of the opportunities available to you. As a TYRO Dad, you will be eligible to participate in workforce strengthening services to help prepare you for employment and open the doors to economic stability for you and your family. The workforce strengthening program starts with job ethics training. Once completed, you may be eligible to receive training to acquire your commercial driver's license while still inside prison. If getting a CDL is not for you, then there is also a welding training program you may be eligible for. before. As more programs are being added, there really is something for almost everyone.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron.
And I'm Kathy. And today we're talking about making those phone calls really count in order to build a strong relationship. This is part of our series on building strong relationship. We talked about culture, we talked about trust, now we're talking about phone calls. And in the coming episodes, you're going to hear us talk about letter writing or email writing, and finally about those visits.
Having a healthy and maintaining and building a healthy relationship despite penitentiary is difficult, it's hard, and it's not easy. But we guarantee you, if you apply these principles that we're going to be talking about throughout the next coming series, it's worth it. It's worth the investment. Your ROI, or your return of investment, is huge. It's replicatable. And
That's right. You're going to watch it happen in your children and your children's children. And think of it that way. You want to build a sustainable, replicable model among
you want a
your children.
duplicate. You want your children to mimic, not pretend. Now, this is the real McCoy here.
Right.
So you want them to take the principles that you and your lady have been able to do, and not only for their own relationships, but for their children's children. This is the legacy that you're building, Dad. Or even if you're not in a relationship, take these principles now and begin to become a TYRO. You know, we talked about what is a TYRO. A TYRO is a man with following. Somebody who's been able to take their past and learn from it and to become a better person because of it.
A lifelong learner, someone in pursuit of continuous improvement. That's what a TYRO means. That's what a TYRO is. And that's what a healthy, responsible adult looks like. If you want to be successful, build healthy relationships and become that person worth following.
So the three things that we want to leave with you with this is, the first one is back to the phone call. How do you call and you want to invest in it? You know, the key word is convenience. You know, it's convenient for me all the time to call you.
Yeah, and so if Ron's calling and I'm like, Ron, you know, we're just getting ready we got to eat and then we got to get out of here. Okay, yeah, but just talk to me. No, the boys have ball games.
So she accepted the charges, so now guess what? We got 15 minutes because they just charged us. And so let's finish up the call. But I did not consider what was happening in her life. I was only considering mine. So really think about convenience. If you call at 9 o'clock at night, what is normally happening in the home? Now, if you have a set regimen, which is what we did, we came to a conclusion, and to help us in our relationship, look, I put the boys to bed at this time.
So if you want to talk to just me, then this is what time that we call. On these nights of the week, you call just me. On these nights, you call at this time, and that way you can connect and talk to the boys. And that seems so frivolous, and maybe it even feels a little bit hurtful to your pride. Like, wait a minute, so I got to work around her schedule? The answer is yes, because there's so much activity happening out here that if we can't manage that activity, then your call becomes a stressor instead of a welcome diversion from what's happening. And so you want it to be an excitement, you want it to be welcomed, and in order to do that, it's got to be the right time.
Always the right time, right? You know, and as we look at this, we're gonna call these three things that we want you to do, the 3 points, C and E. So you got convenience, right? Is it convenient when you're calling? Or are you still making it about you? It's convenient for me to call. You know what? I just got out of chow hall. You know what? I don't have to. I already did my job this morning. It was only 10 minutes, and so I got the whole day. I can call you anytime, right? So is it convenient? So think about your family and their time. The next one is notes. You know, one thing when you become a TYRO, one thing that we get to do is we get to reinvent ourselves. We get to really redefine the way we think, the way we act, the way we talk, the way we walk. You know, and the saying is we want our walk to line up with our talk. So the N word in this series is notes. You know, one thing that I practice doing is when we communicate, even today, because Kathy might be giving me a lot of information, I take notes. So when you're on the phone, you got 15 minutes. Take notes of your conversation. Get a pad of paper with you. Take your ink pen.
No. Now, yes, but I mean, now, remember, you're not taking notes so that you can catch her in something, well, you know, on such and such day at such and such time, you said that you were going to do X, Y, and Z, and have you done that?
Now, if you're a TYRO, you don't think like that. Now, if you're not a TYRO, you might still have the tendency, and even if you are a TYRO, you got to check it when it starts to rise up, because you don't want to use what they're telling them against them. You're using the notes to help make a connection. So if your wife or your significant other tells you they're about ready to go apply for a job and they told you that, you wrote a note about that because you want to bring that back up. How did the job interview go? Did you get it? And then if you're really specific, you applied at that job and you can name the name of a company because you wrote it. That's going to spark more interest from her because now she knows you're really paying attention.
Right, and that you care enough to take time to remember, and if you can't remember on your own, that you took the time to make the note so that you would make sure that this is important and I can't forget about this and I want to make sure I circle back and check in with her on that. Remember, you're not checking her, you're checking in
Ooh, that's a good
with
one,
her.
babe. You're not checking her, you're checking in. And that's key to having a successful, healthy relationship. Kathy and I, even today, we remind ourselves, if we have an issue, our relationship is not perfect.
It's not, no.
Right? But practice does not make perfect, it makes permanent. So our relationship is permanent and it's healthy.
Right.
So when we do have an issue, we're not checking each other, we're checking in. If I have a mind battle, hey, I'm having a mind battle, Anita, let's map this issue so we can resolve it, so then I can go about the rest of my day without carrying something that isn't really there. And then last one is experience. So you got convenience, you got notes, and now you got experience. How do you get your family to want to call or accept the charges every time you call?
And to want to talk to you and be excited about talking to you is that you are creating an experience for them that's going to actually overtake the grief.
It's going to transcend.
It's going to transcend the grief and the pain and the anguish and the separation and build connection so that when they hear your voice, it gives them that reprieve from what the world is throwing at them.
So you're creating what we're going to qualify as a Cedar Point experience or a Disney World experience. You're going to give them this experience where everything is great because you are pouring into them
But
greatness.
it's real. It's real. We're not saying, act all fake and happy when you're feeling frustrated. We're talking about being real, being transparent, being
Authentic.
vulnerable, being authentic. That's
But
the
you're
right
going to
word.
give them a great experience where they want to call you back. You're not giving them a funeral, where this is a dreadful place. You're
Doom and gloom and everything's dead and there's no hope and it's over. I mean, nobody wants to keep experiencing that over and over and over again.
You know the saying, misery what?
Loves company.
My goodness, guys, come on. It's time to really embrace hope. And you can bring that into your significant other, into your spouse. You can bring hope into your family despite the separation, despite being in prison.
Well, it's time to wrap up. So we want to thank you for joining us today and allowing us to be part of your journey as we walk through this series on building healthy relationships. So until next time,
Always remember,
we are rooting for you.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of integrity.
I am a man of faith. I am the antidote.
I am a man of discipline. I am a leader.
I am strong.
I am a man worth following.
I am a TYRO.